Thank you for being here today.
Glad to be here with you.
You know, I've been doing these interviews with great leaders. And it's really not because I'm chancellor that I'm doing this, but I used to be a professor of leadership. So I'm really interested in how people move forward as leaders and get hard things done. And so I'm thrilled you're here today. Just let's talk.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, great. Well, one of the things I always like to start with is when you look back in your life, who do you think really inspired you as a leader? Is there one person, a couple people?
Well, there's many people who've influenced me, but like some of the previous people you've spoken with, my dad was a huge influence on me. He, started off with very humble background and moved from Texas after college to take a job with the U.S. Census Bureau and rose up through the ranks through learning. And one thing I learned from him is just always be good to all the people around you, whether you're at the bottom or whether you're at the very top. And he started at the very entry-level positions for recent college grads and ended up being the appointee, the first person ever to go from civil service all the way up to the political appointment. And but he never treated anybody any differently along the way. And when he retired and later at his funeral, people came from the whole spectrum of his career to comment on something where he was a mentor to them or helped them get a job or was a good colleague and just did some things like that people don't always expect of leaders, but I try to do is just walk with people, go to the same cafeteria, take the public transit, and just connect with people because you need them to be inspired and to be motivated and to feel like part of something bigger than themselves. So,
is that something that you were aware of as you were growing up, or was it more once you're an adult and hearing people talk about him that you saw that?
I think I wasn't really aware. It was sort of like you'd lead by example, but you don't really know what examples your family members are setting for you because you don't have any perspective. So.
Right.
But I learned it. I learned it more when I first started taking public roles and leadership roles, like on the school board, and had good conversations with him at that time.
Yeah.
And it was So that's probably my most formative leadership example. My dad.
Okay, great. So let's think about you as a leader. What was your first experience in leadership? When you look back at your life, what was the first thing you did?
I would say in school settings, through sports teams, I was, captain of my high school and college tennis teams. I was always sort of a captain for younger, soccer leagues and, president of the history club and things like that. So schools and sport settings gave me opportunities. And in sports in particular, taught me the value of teamwork and also, it sounds so trite, but it's very true. Tennis, for example, is you're on the court by yourself or just with your partner, but your team wins or loses based on the whole team score. And I was never really the best player. Sometimes I was seeded number one, but I was sort of the glue person, the person that made the team feel like a team.
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed playing that role. And then it also taught me the importance of dealing, with setbacks. You never win all the points. And so leading people, myself, my team, through losses, either, within a match or, a whole game being lost, a whole encounter with another team, how you just move on. And that's a really important leadership skill, is dealing with setbacks and how to manage moving on beyond that.
And they're public setbacks. I remember watching my boys play sports. I did not play team sports growing up. But I remember being aware of wow, they're standing up there striking out in front of 200 people.
Yeah.
I wonder how that feels. And that experience is kind of what you're talking about. People watch you succeed, fail, goof around and not do well. And that has to pay off once you're mayor, for example.
Yeah. Being in public, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do things that people don't like. But sometimes if you only do that a little bit, you think that people are going to be really judgmental. And usually people are much more understanding and maybe even respect you for being willing to put yourself out there, be in the arena, as they say, because a lot of people are not courageous enough to do
Right.
that. So sports was a good leadership opportunity for me. That's where I feel like I learned a lot of leadership skills that I still use to this day.
Well, I think courage is absolutely the essential requirement for anyone who runs for public office. So I so admire you, and I'm thankful for people who will put themselves forward. So let's talk a little bit about being mayor.
Okay.
What do you think is the primary role of a mayor? I mean, right now I think it's fixing potholes, but
Yeah.
what's the primary role of a mayor?
Well, local government is very close to everybody, and that's what I love about it. I've had the opportunity to work in the federal government, and the state government, and local government, and local's my favorite because we're right here. We go into the same churches and grocery stores and sending our kids to the same schools as the people that we are working to serve. So, but that also means that you're also right there. When every encounter, people are like, I mean, you must face this too. People ask you questions about UT issues wherever you are. And even more so, people do that. I think it's more so. People say, "What about this pothole? What about that?" So, I say this all the time, and it's definitely true. And I really feel it deeply since I'm in my 6th year as mayor. Is public safety is job one. Public safety is the most important responsibility of local government. No one else is doing it. I mean, we also work on housing and infrastructure and economic development, but those are all often in partnership with business interests, with education, with obviously infrastructure is a key thing too. But public safety, there's only one police department that keep us safe. I mean, and they have a big responsibility to keep us safe, and they have the authority to arrest people. They have weapons on them at all times. So when public safety is going well, that means you have the time to worry more about the potholes and the infrastructure. So thankfully, public safety is going well in Knoxville. Crime is down. I have a great police chief. And when I go out to neighborhoods that we have focused our attention on, both from community safety and more intensive policing in a communal-based way, instead of people worried about gunshots or violent crime, they're talking about speeding and potholes. So that's a win. When people have the bandwidth to worry about those issues, then we're doing our job.
That's a great point. You followed some strong mayors.
Yeah.
The one I know best is Governor Haslam. How have those people influenced how you think about this role or even wanting to do it?
Yeah, well, I know Governor Haslam well. I worked with him when I was on the school board, and of course I worked for Madeline Rogero, my immediate predecessor, and I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to Victor Ashe, who's still served as mayor for 16 years. So one thing I've learned is, and you've probably experienced this as chancellor and an academic leader as well, there's more than one way to lead, and what works well for a particular mayor might not be my style. And I do think it's really important for leaders to be true to themselves. And that's one thing that I think Governor Haslam has, and Madeline Rogero as well. What I present to the public, to you, to the community at large, and who I really am, they're very close together. Like, it's not a facade. I sort of speak the same, whether it's to our one-on-one conversation or a convention of 500 people, or I'm in a community meeting in Sequoia Hills or Lonsdale. I don't have to change who I am. And I think leaders who think they need to are going to get stressed out and overwhelmed pretty fast. So having that, I learned that lesson. The way Bill Haslam is and Madeline Rogero is different from me, but they're very authentic and true to themselves. And I think the people who we're serving see that and appreciate that very much. I also very much relied on them in times of challenging times. I was like, when COVID hit, for example, I called all of them and asked for their suggestions and advice and for crisis management. Of course, none of us had dealt with a global pandemic, but I still appreciated their insights.
I've done the same thing when I have faced issues calling previous chancellors, live in another state, land far away. oh, I'm going to have to hire an athletic director. What advice do you have for me? That's a different kind of crisis than a pandemic. But I've never thought it was a sign of weakness to reach out and get help from other people.
Oh,
And I love
absolutely.
hearing
Yeah,
you talk
I
about
totally agree. I think that's a sign of strength. We don't have all the answers.
Right.
And also, I'm the kind of person I like to gather a lot of information if I have the time.
Yeah.
Because there is wisdom in the crowds.
Yeah. So you're obviously an elected leader. I'm an appointed leader.
Uh-huh.
What do you think is the difference in those two, other than obviously people elected you and a person picked me, but
Right.
a research?
Well, I have a lot more bosses, I think.
Okay.
You have a really hard job, and you have a lot of stakeholders who are closely following your decisions. But I have over 200,000 people, and really broader. There are people who call Knoxville home, who look for the city for their jobs, for their health care, for their education, and they want to make sure that the city's well run. So I think there's some different level of accountability, but I think they're both both your job as an appointed person and we're both in public roles.
Right.
I think if you as a leader of our land grant university flagship school, yours is very public facing, and so even though you're appointed, it's almost as if you're facing the same level of scrutiny.
I think about it this way too. Elected officials give us our budget. So
yes, exactly.
I really feel like I'm working for people who've been elected, and so there's a similarity in there somewhat. And the public nature, you're right. I mean, people see us in the newspaper or on social media and form their opinions in part there, right?
Yeah, and then they sometimes think we have authority over a lot more than we actually do. So that's something to keep reminding people that, the mayor is responsible for, public safety and infrastructure and, a lot of public services, but we can't single-handedly fix mental health issues and things like that are very challenging to people and upsetting. But that's why it's always good to be a good listener, because sometimes people come to me, wanting to express their anxiety or concerns about an issue. And even if we can't solve it because it's not our job or expertise, they still want and deserve to be heard. So I try to remember that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When you ran for office and then you've been reelected, so how has your view of the role changed for the fact that you've already served one term? Like, did you think about it and find out, wow, this is way different than I thought? Or how do you think about that?
Well, I think leading during the last 5-6 years has been an interesting experience for all kinds of leaders. I feel very fortunate that I was served on the school board for 10 years, and I think school board helped me develop a thick skin, because people take issues related to their children very emotionally and seriously. So that's been important. Don't take things personally, because I think in the last few years, sometimes I call it the age of rage. There's a lot of challenging things happening, a lot of good things happening too. But if you're experiencing a crisis, and during the pandemic, we were all collectively experiencing something novel, makes it sound pleasant, but it was novel in a bad way. And so a lot of people took their frustrations out on leaders, maybe particularly elected leaders who were making public decisions that affected them. It makes perfect sense. People were acting out in a way that I could understand their frustration. So since I took office, I guess when I was running in 2019, I have a master's in public affairs and urban and regional planning. And
perfect degree.
It seemed like a perfect degree. I always knew public safety was a paramount primary thing for the mayor. But I thought I would get to focus a little bit more on land use and transportation and how to manage growth. We're a fast-growing city and really happy. That's a good thing. Thank you to UT.
We're contributing somewhat.
But, in a good way. The growth to UT is good for Knoxville. So, makes some added pressure. But I think what I learned is you don't always get to pick the issues you're going to work
That's
on. You know that.
Yeah.
Like, who knew that you would have to deal with some of the things you've been dealing with? So you don't always get to pick what you're working on, but take it as it comes. Work on delegating as much as possible, placing the work where it belongs. Again, sometimes people look at the leader that they like and respect and maybe voted for. They're like, can you fix all the problems A to Z? And, we can't, and we shouldn't, try to. So I think I've learned the importance of delegating, placing the work where it belongs. And one thing I learned from you and learn repeatedly and think is the importance of radical collaboration.
Yeah, I love that term. I think you came up with it.
Well, I think you came up with it. But anyhow, we're practicing it, both with our connections with the university, but also the crucible of COVID forced us to collaborate, to get people their meals who were relying on mobile meals, but the regular volunteers couldn't leave their homes because they were medically vulnerable. And all these things were very challenging, but taught us what we can do in a crisis. And we've since used those skills to, open a new stadium downtown, Covenant Health Park, and to work with, the business community on how to manage this growth, work with the realtors on how to add more housing and more affordable housing in particular. So those hard things made us better in the long run.
I don't know that the public has any idea that during COVID, we met weekly for a long time. I don't know who organized that, if that was you but you were there, I was there, people from the health department were there, from the hospital.
And that was really reassuring. And I had weekly meetings with other mayors from across the country too, and that kind of steady collaboration and communication with people who were all sort of navigating something that was new and in the public eye, it was really helpful. So I think it's helped us work more closely together than ever.
We're working on a lot of fun stuff. We'll save that for a minute here. Yeah. So I want to talk about decision making, because a big part of what a leader does is make usually difficult decisions. So I'd like you to just talk out loud a little bit about how you think about decision making. If you were going to describe the way you make hard decisions, what would you say about yourself? How do you go about that?
Well, I do like to listen to all the different, and there's more that people say there's two sides to every decision. There's usually like 10 sides.
I agree.
So I really do like to fully understand the various issues, the perspectives, and then work with my team. I have a great cabinet and city leadership team that has a lot of expertise, engineers and stormwater and police and fire and, managing our staff of 1,600 people. How will these things, can we do these things that sound good on paper? So, and then listening to the community, our customers. So we sometimes have the luxury of time, and we can, sort of cook the conflict and let things sort of simmer, but keep the heat on, so we know that we can't just stop paying attention because it's a challenge that needs to be solved. But then once it's simmered for a while and you have all the right ingredients and you've put together a team to sort of analyze it, and not just internal, the external team too, then making that decision. Because one thing I have found is that even when people disagree with the decision, if they understand the thinking behind it and also the competing needs, then they can embrace it. So listening to the community, taking time where we have the luxury of time, but then, and this is something you preach, like act.
Yeah. Right.
Don't just like let it simmer talking, and then just like let it burn down and you don't ever get to have your meal. Right. People need to eat, and the leaders have to make decisions, and that's the job. But I really enjoy that, and I especially like it when someone who was uncommitted or didn't appreciate a particular decision comes around later. Yeah, that's very satisfying. And
it is
not always doesn't always happen, but when it does, I'm very grateful.
So let's talk a minute. You mentioned that you've got different groups with different needs, different neighborhoods, let's say, across this vast community. that look to you as the person who should be able to help solve their problems. They have different problems. How do you respond to everybody who you can't meet every need? And sometimes you have to weigh in for this group and maybe not this group. How do you go about that?
Well, it's an ongoing challenge and process, but one thing that I really enjoy is spending time with people, and I really like being out in the community, going to community events, talking to people face to face. You know, there was a time when that was harder, and now we don't have those barriers. So that's where you get those good face to face interactions where they feel like they trust me to at least understand the problems, even if I or the city can't single-handedly solve them. But again, being heard, and then again, just trying to make sure that we focus on helping the people where only the city can help, where it's a public safety issue. I'm really proud of a particular project we're doing called Project TLC, which is just what it sounds like. It's tender loving care we started with one, and now it's to 3 different communities where we give them extra support for policing. And that, again, it's not to arrest people, it's just to make these are areas that experience more crime than others. Right. But then we also have Office of Community Safety is coordinating greater codes enforcement, litter pickups, and then community events. This isn't Indya Kincannon's ideas. We surveyed the community and saying, do you feel safe? What would make you feel safer? What would you like less of or more of? And they all said they would like more police presence because that makes them feel safer. Mm-hmm. They also want to deal with the same thing every neighborhood wants, speeding, litter. And these are communities that often don't have the resources to, put on a holiday party or to have Christmas events for, children whose families might not be able to afford to buy gifts. And so we partnered with community members and city resources to make that happen. And the results are amazing. People feel like the city is working with them and for them. And crime has gone down, and they know their neighbors better, and there's more. It's just, it's working really well, and that I'm really awesome. Proud of our efforts on that front.
You should be. When you said community events, I was also thinking about, let's see, a couple years ago we won the national championship in baseball.
That was so
and wanted
fun.
to do a parade, and you guys were great about it. None of us expected 50,000 people. It was a hot day. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do.
And I just remember that, wow, I'm seeing the mayor in action in a different way now, because like you and your team were worried about people not having...
We had some dehydration issues.
The water they needed, all of that. So, but you guys were adaptive enough to be able to work with us to do that, like in very short notice. So we were really grateful.
That was hopefully the national championship isn't a once in a lifetime, but having a parade like that, you talk about what unites people, and I love UT sports and academics. We're here. Right. We moved to Knoxville because of UT, and we wouldn't be here without the University of Tennessee. So thank you for hiring my husband 25 years ago.
I didn't do it, but I'm so glad they did.
Yeah, and it just opened our eyes to all the great opportunities here in Knoxville. But when we talk about conflict and people with different needs, I am a true believer that, the Vols bring people together. Yeah. The academics, but then the sports, they really do. And then people, I have people, who don't like my politics because they have different political ideas. But then we're all there rooting for the Vols on, October Saturdays or whatever. Yeah. And people wear the orange to work, and it's a very uniting thing. And Knoxville, we bleed orange. And that day where we had that parade, I was really proud of our collaboration.
Yeah, I was too.
And proud of the players, and it was just it was amazing how many people came out. Yeah. And I love seeing how you use some footage from that parade in the the video and other films and stuff that you guys make for the university. It's a great showcase for how much this community supports the university and vice versa.
So now you're stealing my next question, which is, let's talk about the relationship between the university and the city and this larger community. How do you experience that relationship, and has it changed over the years? How would you describe it?
Yeah, well, I think we moved here in 2001, and again, it was for my husband's job. He's a professor here, and I think at that time, UT seemed a little more isolated from the city. There was like UT and the city, and you know, I wasn't like on the front lines of it, but it just seemed like there was a little more isolation. UT operated in a bubble, and the city did its thing, and collaboration only happened when there were no other options. It wasn't
when something bad had happened. Probably.
right, right. And then over time, I think as UT has grown, but also the city keeps improving. We're more vibrant, so students, faculty, and staff are coming to other parts of the city to live, to enjoy amenities, to enjoy parks, and there's just greater collaboration. And I think some things that have happened since you and I have both been in these roles just personify that, like even just things on housing.
Right.
Or before I took office, Mayor Haslam and Mayor Rogero worked on a $25 million investment on Cumberland Avenue, the Strip, which when we moved here in 2001, I'd lived in Ann Arbor and Tempe, Arizona, and been to other college towns, and they showed us the Strip, and I was underwhelmed. It was not pretty, and it was not inviting. And then the city spent $25 million to do this beautiful streetscape for, number one, make things safer, because pedestrians were getting hit by cars. That's not okay.
Yeah.
And then number two, to inspire investment along the corridor. So we put in $25 million. Do you know how much has been spent by the private sector since that time?
How much?
$1 billion. With
Love
a B.
that.
Yeah.
Great
So that's
data.
a pretty good return on our investment. And there have been no serious crashes or fatalities from cars or car to car or car to pedestrian. So it's working to inspire more investment and to make people safer, and it's prettier. And the trees are growing. We got more shade. And we're doing that all around the city. But I'm really glad we started on Cumberland, because that's our most walkable part of town. There's a ton of people walking around, and we want to make it inviting and safe.
We have parents bring their children here to look at the school, and we hear again and again, it's so beautiful. The campus is so beautiful.
Campus is pretty.
And it's hard for people. They don't know what's campus and is Cumberland part of the. It just all feels like this one big, beautiful undertaking that's continuing.
Right. That continuity is great.
I think that's a great sign and kind of indicative of our relationship between the city. I don't think people know we meet regularly. We've got an agenda.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things we're working on, including the bridge.
The bridge is going to be
great. The pedestrian bridge is going to be wonderful. Many, many things. So we're grateful for that. All right, here's another question. One of the things you and I share is we're in visible roles, as you talked about earlier. And what comes with that, and sometimes is one of the hard parts for me, is the public criticism. And particularly with social media, people are just right out there saying what they think, and they oftentimes don't even have their name on their, they don't identify themselves. How do you manage that? Public criticism doesn't feel good. But it comes with the territory. So how do you deal with that?
Well, my management of that has evolved over time. First, I have a great comms team who convinced me to stop commenting on social media pretty much at all, although I'm not always as diligent as I need to be. But, when you're campaigning, particularly not for re-election, for the first time, you're just, accessibility is the name of the game. You want to be out there and answer every phone call, text, and comment, and then you can't do that when you're in the role, because that's all you'd have time to do. And then when you do engage, it just invites more engagement, and not from, more from the trolls than the positive people. So one thing I've done is sort of curtail my presence, my personal, I don't have social media on my phone and so forth. So I think that's been helpful. The other thing is just to, again, not take things personally and realize that when people are lashing out, it's more a reflection of what's happening in their lives rather than what you or I are doing for them or to them. But it's challenging, and I do think it's a little bit worse than times past. I mean, when I talked to some of my predecessors, they didn't have protests at their house or vandalism at their house, and that's no, not fun. I don't mind when people do things online or in a city council meeting. And we've had some raucous city council meeting. And again, to me, that means they feel safe coming to city council to vent their concerns or anger, even if it's about an issue that doesn't really have anything to do with city government. So it's also good to have close friends and family who knew you before you were in this role and who are going to know me after, that you can vent and unload and
Let
then
down.
Yes, exactly. That's
Okay, my last question. We started the Baker School here recently and are encouraging young people. We have a great undergraduate major. We're encouraging young people to think about public service. It's a noble calling.
Yeah.
We need good people, right? And you are the epitome of success in many people's eyes in public service. You're mayor of a major city. What would you say to young people who are thinking, maybe that's something I could do someday? Or what advice would you give them?
Well, first, I think going to the Baker School is a great idea. It's a wonderful institution, and I'm so grateful that you've expanded it from a center to a full-fledged school with undergraduate and graduate programs. I love it. I would say, study what you can, get involved as a volunteer, and also don't be scared of the political side. When I was in grad school, one of the most strongest lessons that I learned is that in any decision making in the public sector, you've got the policy considerations, the practice considerations, but the third P, and I'd say the most important, is the politics. If you have, sometimes policy students, they're like, well, the best policy, we looked at it and all the metrics show that this is the best policy, but if you can't get the politics right, it doesn't matter what the best is. Engage with the city of Knoxville. Come seek board appointments through me or other things to get engaged, and also find out an issue you're passionate about, whether that's climate issues or land use issues or public health, and find a board or an organization and get involved. And then I also want to encourage people who go to the Baker School to consider running for office.
Yeah, we do.
We need good people to run for office. It's not for the faint of heart, but I love being mayor. It's the best job I've ever had, the best job I ever will have, and I'm really grateful to be here at a time when you're here as chancellor. I love the partnership we have with UT. We're doing good things for the city. That's also good for the UT. It's a virtuous circle, and thrilled about it.
It's a great time. So thank you for being our mayor and for coming here today to visit with me about leadership. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome.